What is up, my friends? You are all very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda, where, of course, we have lots to discuss. Thank you to those who were with us earlier on at 4 o'clock as well. If you didn't manage to join us for that show, no problem. We can go back over everything tonight. You are, of course, going to be asking about the stream title. We will go into that in detail. We'll, of course, discuss tomorrow's game against Sparta Prague and the multi-club ownership model at Liverpool and a lot of other bits and pieces. But this is your show, my friends. Let us know how you want us to approach it, what direction you want us to go, and where you want me to start. As always, we'll keep you up to date with what's going on in the Champions League games as well. Currently, it was Borussia Dortmund leading PSV Eindhoven by 1-0. That goal came from Jadon Sancho, and as I sit here, it was still scoreless in the Atletico Madrid against Inter Milan game. Now, on that actually, I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I don't know what's going on in Spanish football, particularly around Vinicius Jr. Was sent more links to some disgusting racist chanting from Atletico Madrid fans ahead of the game tonight, and I think Spanish authorities need to get a handle on this. It's absolutely disgusting. Not just what Vinicius Jr. is having to deal with, but just racism rearing its ugly head again. It needs to be sorted out. I don't know how anybody can think it's okay to sing songs about black players, comparing them to chimps, and think that that's in any way acceptable, not just in football, but in society. So again, we need to get a grip on this. It's terrible. It's disgusting. If you don't like somebody as a player, critique their footballing ability, whatever. But to resort to, again, racism, we need to be better than this. Well, we are. But in particular, those fans need to be better than this. And Spanish football needs to start really clamping down on it. It's unacceptable. Right, it's 1-0 as well to Inter, apparently, I've been told. There we go. So there you go. Maybe that's a bit of karma for them. Who scored that goal, by the way, for Inter? Do let me know. UEFA's considering Croke Park for a fan zone. Yes, we spoke about that yesterday, mate. Probably a good idea, knowing Dublin as well as I do. There probably isn't that many areas for fans to be able to congregate, and they're going to have big screens inside. So that is the plan, that they will sell tickets, like a viewing party. Think of it that way. I've been to similar things in Liverpool, by the way. Been over there for the season we beat Manchester City 2-1 at the Etihad, and we beat Roma, and we went to the final. Myself and Connor attended some of the screenings at Anfield of those, and I have to say they were enjoyable affairs. So if you can't get to the Aviva Stadium, I mean, Croke Park should be a good atmosphere as well, if that's an option. If you're travelling to the city of Dublin, it's certainly a fine stadium, and I imagine it'll be a fun evening. But of course, being at the stadium would be everyone's top priority. DeMarco with the goal for Inter, thank you. Right, look, I'm going to get straight into it tonight. I know a lot of you are going to be asking about the title of tonight's stream, and I'm going to do my best to explain where it comes from, basically. So, I think you'll all notice that over the past couple of days in particular, the links to Luis Diaz and a move away from Liverpool have been increasing. Now, I've spent the last couple of hours searching the internet and having a look at what direction these articles are going in. So it's a mixture of some articles saying that Liverpool won't sell him to Barcelona, some articles saying that Liverpool are linking him to Barcelona, and now there's some articles, of course, coming out from the Paris side about a move to PSG. So usually with these things, my instinct is to say there's no smoke without fire. But to tie that all together, there seems to be an increased appetite as well from Liverpool fans on Rodrygo. And I'll move on to that in a moment. Before I do, just some updates in the chat. It's now 1-1. Atleti have equalised, so it's Atletico Madrid 1, Inter Milan 1 on the night. So again, thank you for that, my friends. I was brought up on Dorset Street, said John Power. There you go. There you go, mate. I was obviously the suburbs of Dublin, mate. I was Shankill, but, spent a lot of my youth in and around the city centre as well. Right, so let's get to the Rodrygo part of this. Well, a couple of things to take into account here. Obviously, Real Madrid are going to be bringing in Kylian Mbappe by all accounts. They also have Vinicius Jr. there, Jude Bellingham, and lots of other good young attacking players. And Madrid fans are starting to wonder, and Brazilian football fans are starting to wonder what that means for Rodrygo. Now, I've not seen a direct link right yet to Liverpool and Rodrygo, other than a lot of fan comments, and I'm not trying to make anybody believe with the title that a move for Rodrygo was imminent, far from it. But I do think it could be one of the very first credible links from our own fan base to a player from one of these big clubs. We don't usually do a lot of business with the likes of Real Madrid or Barcelona for players coming to Liverpool. But on this one, I don't know. I mean, the profile of the player, let's look at that. He's right in the spot for the age bracket that we'd usually look to bring players in. You know, what is he, 21, 22, Rodrygo now? Yes, he did sign a new contract at Real Madrid, but there seems to be a lot of displeasure on his side about how things are going. So, Madrid Extra account, which I'm sure you're aware of on social media, they posted Rodrigo's entourage. Why do these players always have entourages? I feel like that undermines the players and makes them out to be a bit of a big time Charlie. So I don't like that language being used on these, and entourage. I mean, his reps is whatever. Anyway, we move past that. Rodrigo's entourage point out that he's not playing in his natural position on the left wing, and that he has to try to adapt to the right flank for the benefit of the team, which has been detrimental to his goal scoring. They go on to say that they also maintain that regardless of what his numbers say, he always appears on the important nights, meaning he always shows up. Now, All Things Brazil, another account, said, with the arrival of Mbappe, it seems Rodrygo is closer than ever to leaving Real Madrid. And then they go on to ask what will be the right career move for him. So from our perspective, I think it's possible. I'm still not saying it's doable. But if you were to sell Luis Diaz, let's say for, I don't know, 70 million quid, just as an example, well, then you can see where maybe we can use that money to go, and we'd probably have to pay a bit more to get Rodrygo out of Real Madrid. But if you're looking at Michael Edwards coming in and Hughes coming in, these are the type of potential upgrades that the club might look to do. Now, I say upgrade from the point of view of refreshing the age. Diaz is now, 27 out of her 28, and I personally have no want or desire to sell him, but there you go. If we did move him on, I mean, I'd be more than happy for Liverpool to be looking at Rodrygo. I'm going to ask you guys a straight question in the chat. Would you swap? So wait for the poll, but we'll get your answer. By the way, I can't type and talk at the same time. I'm one of those idiots, so bear with me as I just write this out. Have I got that right? Yep. Cool. So, simple question. Would you swap Lucho for Rodrygo? Yay or nay? And by that I mean in the squad. I'm not for 1 minute suggesting it's a straight swap or you get him for the same money. No. I'm just saying, would you upgrade and do it that way? Craig, what's your top 3 targets in the summer if you have any? I don't, because Mason, I don't know what the managerial situation looks like. It's hard. Look, we can talk centre-backs comfortably because no matter who comes in, the club are aiming to bring in centre-backs. So whether that's 1 or 2 centre-backs, we'll have to wait and see. So you're probably looking at the ENQUIRIES, Inacios, the usual ones. Mark Gay from Crystal Palace, another name that's been linked to Liverpool quite a bit. Full-back is another one. But other than that, I don't know, because I'm sure a new manager coming in will want to assess the squad. Evening, Craig. I've done that one already. Gonna be honest, I would swap, said Miles. I mean, I would, in a heartbeat. Honestly, for the reasons that I would expect it may be appealing to Liverpool. The age profile, for one. We do love a Brazilian at Liverpool, let's be honest. So there is that as well. And I don't know if Rodrygo has any inclination to want to come and play in the Premier League, but he is in the right age profile. It's not like we're looking at somebody at Madrid, maybe 27, 28. If we are to upgrade the team, you would want to bring in young, hungry players, and I'm sure under Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards, that's going to be part of the recruitment, looking at the underlying numbers, of course, looking to see if there's value there and looking to see if they're the right profile, both on and off the pitch, to come into Liverpool. I don't know what Mr. Rodrygo goes is like outside of the football pitch, but on the football pitch, I'm an admirer. But isn't it better to give Gakpo a chance on the left and buy a natural right winger? Again, it's a fair point, and perhaps, but look, there's nothing wrong with, again, having some versatility in this squad. So, Ola, it's a really good question, and I don't disagree with you. Gakpo's preferred position is on the left. But I would also question, if we do bring in Alonso, let's say, are we going to play with wingers in our system like we are used to, or will we play a different system? So, you have to take that into account as well. But what I would say is, nothing wrong with having a couple of young, hungry wingers. I mean, Gakpo's versatile, can play on either side. I guess where I'm going with this is I'd feel a lot more comfortable keeping Mo and losing Diaz as a winger if we had to. Now, I don't want us to move on any of our forwards. Absolutely none of them. I want every single one of them boys to be here next season. But I have to say, sometimes things just come up and you think, well, would I do that swap? Would I upgrade the squad in that way? And I would. I wonder how much he would cost. Well, look, we won't be talking about Rodrigo's release clause because that's, I think, a billion euro, something like that. I guess the answer to that question would probably be somewhere between what Madrid need to get, because, you know, they're going to have to obviously cut their cloth accordingly with Endrick coming in the future, obviously with Jude Bellingham there, with the wages of Mbappe coming on board. So, yeah, they may have to sell as well. So maybe that comes into this consideration. I don't know. But what I really want to just get across is there's obviously something happening with the whole Diaz stuff. I don't know who's driving it, and I've tried to find that out in between the time when we last spoke and tonight. I did reach out to people, and from the club side, the stance is not for sale. But I don't know if that's the public stance of not for sale. I don't know if his agent is trying to engineer a move away, because it seems like somebody has a vested interest in getting a move for Diaz here. Because Barcelona links, I think we could all somewhat understand from the perspective of his dream club. We know that situation with his father before when he spoke about it. But right now it feels like someone's trying to get a move for him. You know, could it be the agent? Absolutely. Could it be genuine as well that PSG maybe are just running the rule over a couple of options for replacements for Diaz or for Mbappe, who is going to be leaving at the end of the season? Right, 2-0 PSG, said Mark in that game. I think we've retracted that message. That's the French Cup game where they're playing Nice, if I'm not mistaken. Right, some of your comments. Diaz dribbles 100 or 10 times better than Rodrigo, said the Red Machine. Yes, but let me flip that for you. Rodrigo's far more proficient in front of goal, in my opinion, than Diaz. But I do agree with what you say. I love Diaz's dribbling ability. I thought he was absolutely top-notch against Manchester City as well in the second half. Dave Connolly said, Gakpo not good enough, sell. I wouldn't sell Gakpo yet. I think that there's more to come from Cody Gakpo. I do, and I still have the whole, what I like to call the Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, James Milner paradox of, I want him around the club, but I don't know where he starts every week. And that's a bit of a concern, I guess. Am I just wanting him to do well, or am I burying my head in the sand here and being ignorant to what I'm seeing in front of me? And the truth is, I don't know yet. But I'm not ready to give up on Cody Gakpo yet. He does have more strides to make. Yeah, and I feel like he wants to be here as well, Gakpo. I mean, that's important. I feel like he'll fight for the shirt. He'll fight to try and get his place. So I wouldn't be giving it on the kid yet. That's where I am with it. Diaz's quality on the ball, nobody helps him. I disagree with nobody helping him. Diaz is greedy on the ball a lot of the time. Let's be honest. Like, really, let's be honest. How many times do we see him cut across the edge of the box where there were balls that he could square off easily? Ball in diagonally into the right side of attack, ball across the edge of the 18-yard box. He doesn't. He takes too long, gets a shot is blocked or goes hide. That frustrates me. So I don't think nobody helps him. I don't think that's true at all. And again, not trying to have a go with you, by the way. Casper said, I love Gakpo. He's a brilliant player. Let's have a look at how the poll is doing in the early days. We only asked you 6 minutes ago. We've already had nearly 600 votes. Simple question. Would you swap Diaz for Rodrigo? And so far, it's leaning towards almost 60% saying yes. Watching the Atleti versus Inter game being great, said Corbin 2003. Thank you for your super chat, mate. I had it on myself before I started the stream. I watched the first 20-25 minutes of it, and it was a competitive game. Yeah, definitely was. But I can't lie, mate. I'm a little bit disheartened by that whole Vinicius Jr. singing the racist stuff. It really angers me. It does. Like, we've seen so many times where people will say a racist word and we say to ourselves, is that a racist phrase they've said, or are they in themselves racist? And I think if you say something like that once, you have an argument to say, I didn't understand, or I said something I shouldn't have said. But not that I'm, by the way, making it in any way acceptable. I don't mean that at all. But when you see this constant singing of it over and over, no matter how many times Vinicius Jr., Real Madrid, the Brazilian FA, Real Madrid fans, football in general, speaks up to say it's unacceptable, to be able to see them sing it in such an open, free, uncaring manner, you know, that football club should not have left those fans inside the stadium at that point. That's how strongly I feel about it. If Liverpool had a group of fans outside the front of Anfield singing racist songs about, I mean, it doesn't really matter who, anybody, I wouldn't want those fans entering into the stadium. I wouldn't want Liverpool endorsing that behaviour, and I'm sure that they wouldn't. So why is it seemingly okay to be openly racist and chant these things in Spanish football at the minute? It's not a good look. Gakpo is at 10 doing Vert's role, said Harry Klein. Gakpo, I think we all think, is his own favourite position's left wing. But I guess what he is depends on what the manager asks him to be. I think he's an incredibly good player at carrying the ball and breaking lines. I think he's capable of popping up with a goal or two. He's not too shabby aerially. But most importantly, the point I want to keep getting across is he's young. He shouldn't be the finished article at the minute. So that's why I would move him on. I think there's a lot more to come from Cody Gakpo. And maybe he just needs a consistent run. Maybe he needs that arm around the shoulder. I don't know. But remember, look at Curtis Jones. Another good example of a player who and I'm definitely guilty of this, and many others wrote off. But he has found rhythm, found belief, you know, had a bit of a luck with his injury and is back, and he was playing better than ever before he picked up this latest injury. So give him a bit of time. Now, Diaz, on the other hand, there's a bit of a different question to be asked there, because you've got the age profile of it. And it feels to me, and I can't, you know, I don't know Luis Diaz, but it doesn't feel, these aren't the type of things of a player who's settled. You know, you would nip this stuff in the bud if there wasn't something in it. And all these links to Barcelona are kind of understandable for obvious reasons. But when you see the PSG ones coming up, and do I really think he isn't for sale? No. I think there's a number. I think he would be somebody the club would listen to a number to, because I think we can refresh age-wise. I wouldn't sell him, but I do think there's a number. Diaz is 27. I thought he was 24, 25. Now, to the best of my understanding, he's 27 going on 28. Obviously, Craig, surprise, surprise, you're 27, you would be going on 28. But yeah, I think he's 27. I think he's in the older bracket. I like to divide our players up into the 17 to 22 bracket, the 22 to 26 bracket, and then 27 upwards. And yeah, he's one of the more senior players. Diaz can't finish. That's my only problem with him, said John Power. He definitely needs to work on it. I'm not going to disagree with you, but I don't think it's a Diaz alone problem. I think a lot of our players take one or two touches too many. One of the things that I was annoyed about Diaz in the game against Manchester City was everybody will talk about the one-on-one where Salah put him through. But it was actually the other one that annoyed me even more. The one that the ball was played slightly behind him and he still tried to take a touch, whereas he should have just hit it first time. That's more what annoys me. It's just trying to set yourself too perfectly. It just gives defenders a chance to get back at you. Diaz is 28 next January. So, to be fair, he's just gone past 27. So, look, do I think Diaz is near the end of his career? Absolutely not. I'm not trying to say that. But with Edwards coming in, you again have to look at, will he look to restructure the age profile of the team a little bit? And I have a feeling he might. You're mad looking at 27 like the 33. Did I, in any way, shape or form, Callum, say that he is a 33-year-old? I think I've just made my point of saying I think he has a lot more years left. But we can't ignore the stories. We can't ignore who's coming into the club in Michael Edwards. And I think we're going to see a change from Liverpool with regards to the way players in their late 20s, early 30s are dealt with by the club. Jurgen fought for a lot of these guys to get extended deals. And some of them, like Virgil van Dijk, will be a no-brainer. He's in a position where you can probably play till you're 37, 38, 39 and not rely on your pace, because he isn't a player who just relies on his pace. Diaz, on the other hand, with a mixture of some injuries, with a mixture of some underperforming parts of his season, I just think there is a possibility that he could be sold. Really, I do. And I don't think there's any smoke without fire with these stories. Now, whether anybody's able to get to a number that Liverpool are really interested in, that's another thing. Only thing about Edwards is he'll make the decisions we won't like. Well, yes, because he'll make them based on the numbers. Like, it's weird because we know he's coming in because FSG like the fact one of the things about him is he removes emotions from decision. He's not afraid to push back. He's not afraid to go against the curve. But that will, as you've just said there yourself, lead to some decisions that we question. And I'll still go back to what I said about always wanting to sell a player a year too early than a year too late. It's just better. Look, if I could move on a forward this summer, would it be Diaz? No. He wouldn't be the one I'd look to move on this summer if I could sell one player. In fact, if I'm looking at our front line, I don't really have anybody I'd move on right now. I would be prioritising Mo's extension, but I think the general consensus from Liverpool fans I've spoken to and some journalists is that with Edwards coming in and the Salah situation being as it is, this is probably the summer where Mo departs, but God, I hope we're wrong. CSH said, only if Diaz truly wants to go, won't stop him, but he's played his heart out for us in the past few months, especially given the players out. Look, he's been incredible since he's come back from what happened with his dad. And even the fact that he was available for selection for some of that process speaks to the man's mental strength. And I couldn't imagine going through what Diaz went through and his family went through. It's incredible that he was able to play at all, let alone get to this level he's at now. So yeah, but also these stories don't go away. And what I'd like to see is Lucho come out in the next day or two and say that he's really happy at the club, that he's no intentions of going anywhere, and that this is all just newspaper stories. That would be great. And I love that his dad's at Anfield a lot lately as well. I love seeing players' families there. And Lucho's dad looks like a really lovely guy, and certainly looks like he's there to cheer on and want his son to do well. So, yeah. 3-3. Oh, my God. Wow. What a game at the Vitality. 3-3. That's crazy. Wow. That is nuts. Gluten tore into a 3-goal lead. 3-3. That is incredible. Some amount of goals in that one. Lucho will only leave for Barca. Mark my words. Well, I mean, you don't have to phrase that in a way that makes it sound like we all don't know that Barca is a club he'd go to. I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. It's so hard to gauge any transfer talk at the minute because of all the change that's taken place. I did find a couple of things that I thought was interesting, though, since we last spoke. Did you guys see the image? I can't believe this, by the way. TNT Sports posted an image on Football on TNT Sports where they said, for the first time in 14 years, Arsenal are through to the Champions League quarter-final. And then they have a kind of montage, collage of photos of Arsenal players. And then just in the background there, just on the right-hand side, you see a European Cup being lifted. And you're thinking, but Arsenal haven't won a European Cup. And then you look a little bit closer and you realise that they've actually just robbed the picture of Jurgen Klopp lifting the Liverpool's European Cup and added it in to try and make Arsenal look a little bit better. Come on now. Come on. We all know Arsenal haven't gotten their hands on old big ears yet. So I find that quite funny that they've had to go that creative, shall we say. Sorry, I'm just reading through my notes. Because there's some interesting stuff in The Athletic about multi-club ownership, about Michael Edwards and Mike Gordon departing. Sorry, just reading through this just to make sure. Right, I'm going to read you through some stuff on The Athletic now. So this is about Mike Gordon and acknowledging the specific role that was made for Edwards. He said, It was clear when we initially reached out to him that a broader scope would be a key motivational factor for any potential return to the industry. So not just to football, but with Edwards returning back to, or not just to Liverpool, with Edwards returning back to football. But interestingly, what you may have noticed from all of this is Liverpool didn't make the statement about Michael Edwards coming. It was FSG, and the reason was that is an FSG appointment. And this piece that was written by Simon Hughes and James Pearce, which is a really good piece, by the way, on The Athletic, they are at pains to say that it was Michael Edwards who was looking to control the narrative of how this announcement that he was returning was made, and that it was key that it was posted by FSG because he's going to be FSG's CEO of football, not just Liverpool. So anyway, I'll continue reading on. The piece said Edwards, meanwhile, was humbled by his desire and persistence that was shown in wanting to work with the club again. He went on to say, "This is not something that I take for granted given their track record across sport and business. It was vital for me that if I did return, it had to be with renewed vigour and energy. In practice, this means having fresh challenges and opportunities. As such, one of the biggest factors in my decision is the commitment to acquire and oversee an additional club growing this area of their organisation." So then I started to look into what would this look like for Liverpool and what might it mean. And to be fair to The Athletic, they've answered some of those questions. So the first question that The Athletic raised about this multi-club ownership was, what kind of club is likely to be targeted by Liverpool and where? So the piece says there's a pattern to clubs that have been targeted by those in the Premier League seeking expansion, big enough to compete in the top division of their countries, but without costing the earth to buy. They go on to give examples, said Liverpool are unlikely to break that trend and will seek a club willing to buy into the long-term vision. South American market, and particularly Brazil, has been assessed by FSG, but the preference for this first stop will likely be a European club. Now that's a big bit of information there. So it will look like Liverpool are going to try and buy a top-tiered but maybe lower level club in Europe. They go on to say why. The United Kingdom's vote to withdraw from the European Union, you may have heard of it, a little thing called Brexit, has led to complications in recruitment, with Brexit making it more difficult for overseas players to obtain a work permit to join English clubs. Owning a European club helps circumvent those rules, presenting the chance for a player to build up his qualification criteria in another league. It could also give a temporary home to promising under-18s players from the continent who are no longer eligible to sign for English clubs. As an example for us, the last player that Liverpool were able to bring in after the Brexit rules are about to be enforced was Stefan Bajcetic. 16 years of age, Liverpool paid €300,000 to Celta Vigo for his services. We can't do that anymore because we can only sign players over the age of 18 now from Europe, as can any club in the Premier League, which is why you see such a fight for young English talent now, and Liverpool, the likes of Trainioni, players like that being brought through. And actually, while I'm speaking about Trainioni, I need to make a correction to my team prediction. He isn't in the Europa League squad. He hasn't been registered in the Europa League squad, even on the B list. So you can scratch that position of my midfield. Trainioni will not be taking part because he isn't on the squad list. They also go on to say there's an opportunity to share scouting analysis when you've got a multi-club ownership and data as part of the model, casting the net wider and further as the Red Bull Group featuring Leipzig and Salzburg have done so impressively. This all leads back to Gordon's spoken ambition to strengthen Liverpool. So that's where we're kind of at with all of this. I'm going to turn to tomorrow's game now in a minute for a second, but I want to get through some of your comments. 3-3 Luton Bournemouth. Trent is definitely not world class. Well, what? Trent isn't world class? I would disagree. I think he's a world class footballer, but what his position is, I guess that's up for debate. Anyway, not comfortable with multi-club ownership. Seems a bit iffy, says Real Phil. There are definitely drawbacks to it, Phil. It's not all champagne and Skittles, mate. I've outlined some of the reasons why it's attractive to English clubs, you know, but you do have to look at the club that's being purchased as well. Like, their fans will rightly ask, are we just going to become a feeder club? Is this advantageous for the club that are being brought into a multi-ownership model, or a multi-club ownership model, excuse me. And yeah, we've seen some situations where Strasbourg, who's owned by Todd Bowley and his partners, their fans aren't very happy. Some of the clubs that have been owned by Jerry Cardinal and Redbird Capital, their fans haven't been very happy. So yeah, it isn't always great. And you've also seen some fans of some of the other clubs, even some of the Red Bull clubs, that have complained that they've been weakened. Salzburg, as an example, have felt like they're a little bit further down the pyramid or the list of priorities for the Red Bull clubs. I've seen some interesting stuff over the years from their fans. So yeah, it definitely isn't all positive, mate. But from our perspective, as I mentioned, being able to bring in players from South America and Europe, either under the age of 18 or who couldn't get work permits for the Premier League, that I guess is one of the big pluses here. And also, I guess, to add value to these clubs and again, increase the value of FSG's portfolio. Diaz has huge potential if he stays at Liverpool. He has the potential with Núñez to be the next Anfield gods. My biggest concern about him is injuries. That's my biggest concern about Diaz. I feel like there's always a couple of seasons where he misses runs of games. And it's often the case with explosive players. Is Edwards the manager? No, Edwards is going to be overseeing all football operations. All of it. Like, he's going to oversee the appointment of the manager. Obviously, Richard Hughes is the sporting director. But not just for Liverpool, for anything that FSG acquire with regards to football. What's this? So, tomorrow, for the game against... sorry, I'm just getting my notes ready here. For the game against Sparta Prague, the Echo have reckoned that we're going to see a lot of academy players given a chance. So they say the lengthy injury list means that there are further opportunities for academy players to impress. They go on to say, alongside the established trio of Jarell Quansah, Conor Bradley and Bobby Clark, Cade Gordon and James McConnell, who both feature in the Europa League group stage, were involved in training today, as was Lewis Koumas, who scored in a senior debut against Southampton. And teenage duo Nalo and Neoni were training today, but they aren't registered. They go on to say Jayden Danns, who's missed out with concussion of late, wasn't in the session today. So again, time's ticking if Danns is to get back involved for, well, tomorrow or the weekend. Maybe looking very unlikely for tomorrow if he hasn't trained as far as today. So I think we're going to see a mixed team tomorrow. I actually think we're going to be annoyed about it being stronger than we would like. That's the problem I think we're going to have tomorrow. Radu said, I don't see the potential in Rodrigo. Lucho, on the other hand, he's a diamond. Well, there is huge potential in Rodrigo, mate. I mean, whether you see it or not, it is there. 100%. I'm not trying to say there's none in Diaz, but Rodrigo has bags of potential. And really, in the last year, has started to show some goal-scoring form for Madrid as well. Centralisation of sports as the rest of society, the footy pyramid will go eventually. So Norton, you've really hit a nail on the head for me. There is seeming to be fewer and fewer independent outlets in life across all society, which I think is what you're hinting at there. And football looks like it's going no different. So, you know, how many times do we see up-and-coming brands or technologies bought by bigger companies and brought into their fold? Because in society right now, as you've said, there are more and more very, 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 very wealthy, powerful companies and less individual success stories. I totally agree with you. The world needs to stop these companies having so much power. And in football, that will become a problem as well. So again, I don't disagree with your sentiment at all. Craig, do you want Man City to win against Arsenal? No. If somebody had to win in that game, I'd prefer it to be Arsenal. But a draw would do us no harm either. But no, I never want Man City to win anything. A coin toss, nothing. Not even a game of rock, paper, scissors. The whole expansion mode from FSG that came out a few months ago starting to make sense, said Ryan White. Yes, it is. So, I also looked into this. How do I address this? So, there's been talk of a feud between Jurgen Klopp and Michael Edwards previously. And I think it's probably not as intense as made out, but from what I've been able to look into and read up on, it does feel like there were things where they did disagree on quite strongly. Some of those being contract extensions for more senior players, some of them being some of the staff that are there. So I feel comfortable saying this. I don't believe Michael Edwards would have came back if Jurgen Klopp was still at the club. I feel comfortable saying that at this point. But again, it's kind of a moot point as well, because well, Klopp isn't going to be here, and we still had to find somebody to overlook the footballing side of things anyway and overhaul it. So maybe it's just the right time. We talked about those sliding door moments many times. So on Alisson, I don't know if I'm reading this situation wrong, but so Alisson's contract's up in 2027, and I'm starting to see some people talk about moving him on, and I hope this is just overexcitement about Kelleher, because I tell you what, I would be absolutely fuming if there was any indication that Liverpool wanted or were willing to even listen to offers for Alisson Becker. He's got years to go at the top level, and as much as I would love to keep Creevy and Kelleher around, I'm seeing a lot of stuff from people saying things like, does Alisson deserve to just keep the shirt when he's back? Should it be just taken off Kelleher? Then I've seen other stuff from people starting to say maybe now's the right time to cash in and promote Creevy and Kelleher up. Which, you know, I love the sentiment, but I'm not at that point at all where I'd consider moving Alisson on. Not even at the point where I'd consider not giving him the shirt back. It's his shirt. He's the best keeper in the world, in my opinion. And as a goalkeeper, I expect him to play till he's 36, 37, 38 at a very top level. Yeah, I think it would be a crazy move to even consider either dropping or moving him on. Look, we all like the idea of Kelleher. I love him at the club. I do. But Alisson's, to me particularly, he's a god. I love the man. Best goalkeeper I've seen in my lifetime at Liverpool. He's injury prone, Craig, as a keeper. I think there's been 2 injuries I can think of. Calf and hamstring. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on them. So is he injury prone? I don't know if it's prone, but there has been some injuries, yes. And not contact injuries, which of course you get with keepers sometimes if they're going for challenges and stuff like that. But I don't think he's injury prone. No, I wouldn't put that in the column of things against Alisson. Yeah, not for me. Don't think injury prone comes to mind. How do you think Edwards will look at Endo's profile due to him looking at numbers and age? I think Endo won't get an extension. He might get a pay rise, which I don't think any of us would argue against, but I'd be amazed if Edwards was coming in looking at giving him a pay rise. What did Endo come in on? A 3 or 4 year deal, wasn't it? I know it certainly wasn't a 5 year deal, but I think it was a 3 or 4 year deal. And look, we already know Bajcetic is probably where the club are looking at for the future in that position. Perhaps Morton, if he comes back and impresses, I don't know. But yeah, look, Endo's established at this point. I don't expect anything for Endo except a few more years at the club. So it was a 4 year deal. Some people are saying 3. I think it was 4. But either way, it's irrelevant. He wasn't given a 1 or 2 year deal. He was brought in because the club believed he could fulfill a role for whatever the amount of time was. And I think he will. He doesn't look like a player who's flagging at 30. He looks like an absolute Duracell bunny type of a player who's energy for days. Love that Edwards rejected United and Chelsea. And you can add Barcelona and Madrid to that list as well. And United were willing to give him a fairly broad scope as well to come in. But yes, he's rejected them, and rightly so. If he was going to come back to football, it should be with Liverpool, obviously. Who's my preferred mid 3 when everyone's fit? I don't really have one because it depends on the opposition. If everybody was fit this weekend and we were playing United in the FA Cup, what would my preferred midfield three be? Endo. It's so difficult because I want to say Jones, but my head says McAllister. I'd probably go Endo, McAllister, Szoboszlai. But I wouldn't make any argument to somebody else who said Endo, Jones, Szoboszlai. I wouldn't put up an argument against that. And I wouldn't put up an argument to somebody who said put Elliott on the right side of midfield either. I think we've got two nailed-on competitors for each position and Gravenberch who can move between all of them. So on the left, Jones, McAllister going head-to-head. On the right, Elliott, Szoboszlai going head-to-head. And then, of course, an opportunity for Gravenberch in either or even a bit deeper. Give Kelleher a 5-year deal and allow him to go on multiple loans. Would it not be better to sell him with a buyback clause that's active for 2 or 3 years? Because that way you're not tying up money. You're bringing in money for the club. You're allowing Kelleher to go play, develop. And then if you want to bring him back in, you've got the first option on it. That would make more sense, and I think would make more sense from a financial perspective as well. Because if you're loaning him, you're probably going to have to pay a good majority of his wages. Whereas if you sell him, it frees up some money in the short term. No way is it 4-3. No way. Come on now. Oh my God. 4-3 to Bournemouth. Holy wow. Wow. What a game. 3-0 down at half time and they're 4-3 up. Oh my days. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. So again, just to reiterate what Ian Doyle said earlier on, Ryan Gravenberch has been spotted back training, which is great news. Having Ryan Gravenberch available for the weekend or for now is nuts. It's incredible how they want Diaz out of the team. A month ago, this didn't happen. It reminds me of how they wanted to finish off Núñez when he was wrong and now supposed to love him. I don't know who they is, mate. You say they like it encompasses everybody. Nobody's wanting Diaz out of the club. But we have seen a lot of stories linking it with moves away from the club. So, for instance, right now we're not seeing stories with Van Dijk being moved away or Jota moving away or, I don't know, pick another player. You're not seeing them, but we are seeing a lot of stories coming from, by the way, might I say, a lot of it from Colombia, because I see you've got a Colombian flag there. And then you want to jump all over us for wanting to say we're wishing him away. It's not the case. But we are a fan channel and we do have to talk about what's going on at the club. And what's going on at the club in the last couple of days has been a lot of articles written about Diaz to Barca, Diaz to PSG. We can't just ignore that. So nobody's wishing him away. But I've said this many times. Yes, there are some fans on social media who are overreactionary. Yes, at times I can be overreactionary. But there's also been a lot of people who just bury their heads in the sand and want to be in this happy, clappy world of everything's great all the time and we should all just sing Kumbaya, hold hands together. That's not real football either. You know, we have to discuss these things and sometimes there's going to be some decisions that will be made by the club that we won't like. And I think we're going to see some of those decisions this summer, not specifically about Diaz, but I think there's going to be some eyebrows raised when we end the campaign. Pedro Neto to replace Salah, said Destroyer. So, Pedro Neto, the football player with no injuries, 100% would have him. Love him. Pedro Neto, as it currently sits, nah. No. Him and Elise right now are two people I'd be overly concerned about their injuries this season. Love the two of them as footballers. Really, really exciting to watch. But he's picked up a lot of injuries. Outlaw said, I love Núñez, point blank, period. Haven't felt this in love with a striker at Liverpool since Torres. Look, you know how much I like Núñez. And I had that one game against United where, as I've said many times, I absolutely was in a foul humour that day and said some really Negative stuff that I'm not proud of about Salah and Nunes that day. But overall, I think if you look at all my comments about Darwin, I love him. Again, he's my new Bobby Firmino. Would I swap Diaz with Rafael? What age is Rafael? If you don't, I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say he's like 23, 24. I mean, I probably would, yeah. I probably would. But I do hold Rafael in quite a high 24. There you go. Yes, then I would, and I think most of us would if we're being honest about it. Like Leao is a lot of talent. Right, so we did ask you, and we've had 1,500 votes. Do you think you would swap Diaz for Rodrigo? I'll end it there because we've had the 1,500 votes pretty much. We're too short, and it was, as you can see, 54% said they would swap Diaz for Rodrigo, and 45% said no, with obviously that 1% differential. Nunes has improved hugely this season. I couldn't agree more. And Nunes, unlike Haaland, is really important to us even if he doesn't score. Because he occupies defenders, he runs the channels, he fights for balls. Whereas Haaland, let's be honest, that game against us last weekend, he ghosted. 22 touches, one shot, absolutely didn't show up. Brian, wow. Brian with the $199.99 super chat. Wow. About a week to go. And what Brian means is, of course, this. A week to go until we're in Boston. Ticket sales are picking up a bit, which is great as well. So yes, don't miss out. If you're going to be in Boston next Friday, come see your friends at Anfield Agenda live in the Foundation Room at the Citizens House of Blues. Boom. Love it, Brian. Thank you so much, mate. That's amazing. Appreciate all of your support, and can't wait to get over and catch up with Brian as well. The majority of that 45% has to be heart over head, doesn't it? I think some people genuinely don't rate Rodrigo, and I think we have to be fair to that as well. But other people, I think, some of it will be heart over head. Yes, I agree with you. But some people genuinely would feel that they don't see the upgrade in Rodrigo, and we've got to understand that as well. But yes, Brian, a week to go, mate. I can't wait. Cannot wait. Really can't wait. Buzzing to get over to Boston and see it, enjoy it, meet Liverpool fans, see the city. Yes, we're all very excited. And wow, thank you so much, mate. You don't know what to say, as always. Elon Musk is Brian in disguise. There you go. Yes, and look, Brian's the reason we're going to Boston. You know, I'm going to be honest about this. The reason we're going to Boston is because Brian and his brother Vern came to Dublin all the way from America, 2 different parts of America, to see our show in Dublin. I thought he was winding me up when he said he was coming over. But then I met him that night. We had dinner the next night. Got to speak with him pretty much every second night since. We exchanged messages and go back and forth. And when we thought, let's go over and do something, Boston was the first place we thought of, because we wanted to get over and see Brian's home city and check out Boston, check out Fenway. And Brian very kindly helped us to source the venue, and that's why we're going to Boston. So yeah, can't wait to catch up with Brian again. Opinions on Owen Beck, really promising. Him and Chambers, 2 really good options on the left side of the defence. Which one, if we get a new manager coming in, well, we will, but if it's Alonso, which one will he prefer? Don't know, but again, it's a good headache for the club to have. And yes, that is a picture of Tin Lizzy in Brian's profile picture, mate. He's a massive Tin Lizzy fan. Even his email address would tell you that. But yes, he is a huge Tin Lizzy fan. Do I like The Walking Dead? I can't say I do. No. Craig, I'd love to give John W. Henry a piece of my mind if I ever met him, said Arian. Look, I'd love to sit down and have a chat with somebody from FSG. Not to unload on them or anything, just, you know, it'd be lovely to be able to get a feel for their thoughts on the club, the future of the club, how their tenure has been so far. You know, have they learned from the errors that we've seen them make? There's a lot of stuff, but, you know, I'm going to be really honest. I've been asked many times, have I forgiven FSG, or am I FSG in or FSG out? And the honest answer, as I've said all along, is there was no way back for me after the Super League. I'm somebody who values trust massively, and they broke that trust when they were willing to sell our footballing heritage down the river for some money. And no amount of apologies is ever going to make up for that for me. But I'm also not a pig ignorant idiot who just hates on people for the sake of hating. They've done some really good stuff at this football club. They have. They brought us in Jurgen Klopp. They've delivered us, along with Jurgen and the staff, a European Cup, a league title, 2 League Cups, an FA Cup, a Club World Cup, a Super Cup. And for that, I waited a long time as a Liverpool fan. So there's always going to be some parts of FSG's operation that I don't like, and I think they're a little bit too frugal for my liking, and that's me putting it politely. I've often said, where's the money, John? Where's the money? But if I was to just be very anti them on everything, I would be doing you a disservice, because that's an agenda at that point. And I don't like to think I have agendas against anybody other than Manchester City. Did I watch 4-4 tunes this week? Yes. And I love the Haaland on a leash. Do you think Diaz goes, then Nunes goes on the left, and the new gaffer brings in a number 9? Again, I don't mean this to be a cop-out answer, but I don't know the answer, because I don't know what the new manager's going to want. But look, as long as Nunes is in the team somewhere, I don't really care if it's through the centre, if it's left. As long as he's on the pitch, I'm happy. That's the name of the channel, Craig. Yeah, weirdly, I had a conversation about that the other day. And I'm going to ask you about it. 1 second. Right, simple question for you. Do you like our channel name? Yes or no? Because I was having this conversation the other day. Often if I'm out and about and somebody comes up to me, and it's not, I say often, I'm not out and about that much, but if I am, you'd be amazed the amount of people that come up to me and say, it's Anfield Agenda. Not it's Craig. They refer to me as Anfield Agenda. So we were talking a little bit about this earlier on, and I'm always looking to evolve things, and sometimes I throw forward the name, should we change the name? And then other times I think I'm overthinking things. So I never actually thought of asking the question of what you guys think of the name, Anfield Agenda. Because, we used to have a different name when we were a podcast beforehand. And I think I've told you the story of myself and Conor and John Lennon Airport in Liverpool, where we just decided it was going to be Anfield Agenda. But I've never actually thought of asking you what you think about it. Craig, you should be proud of yourself. I've just walked into a shop to get snacks just to watch your stream with. I mean, well played. I hope they were good snacks now. I hope you won't burn broccoli or anything like that. Or licorice. I put licorice in the same bracket as broccoli. But not the red licorice. Red licorice is good. The black licorice, don't like that. The red licorice, good. Black licorice, bad. Any updates on who's more likely to be the next manager? It's Alonso and Amorim in that order. That is the answer. If they get Alonso, it'll be Alonso. Amorim will be the closest. After that is where I really would be confused. Nagelsmann's name's been touted still. De Zerbi's name's been doing the rounds. But let's be honest, we're not gonna want Roberto De Zerbi. So you asked me earlier on about the Kate Abdo, Jamie Carragher thing, and I told you I couldn't address it properly because I hadn't watched the clip. Now I've watched the clip. A lot to unpack, let's say. So here's my take on it. It was very cringy. It was a poor attempt at banter. It was unfitting of the circumstances, unprofessional as hell. But that's what mainstream football is going to. They want to be YouTubers. I know you're going to laugh at me, but I'm not wrong. All of this patter that they have on there is because they know that football fan channels and the way that we present and the way that we interact with each other, and they've tried to do that in professional settings, and it isn't workable because the thresholds aren't the same. So what I found weird about that was I found it incredibly cringy that Carragher was standing there in an Arsenal top. I found it incredibly unfair what he said to Kate Abdo. I found that she took it like a champion and has addressed it really, really well, and fair play to her for that. But I've got to say, it didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. It didn't. I don't think there was anything fireable about it, but it's not a good look. It isn't, and I think he should have been better. But fair play to Kate, but yeah, not great at all, if I'm being honest. Mercenaries YouTube said, Craig, I don't want Lucho to leave. He's a very good player. Remember the start when we had and he came to us. Look, I'm a fan of Lucho, but I'm just asking the questions why his name keeps coming up for moves away lately, and I hope it's just silly media speculation, but I don't know. If it's not, don't fix it. We love the name. Well, I mean, in a quick straw poll that we've ran there, we said, do you like the name of the channel? And so far we've had 89% of people. I'm going to leave it up for a few more minutes to see if we can get a bigger sample size. Barry, not to be outdone by Brian. Barry straight in gifting 50 Anfield Agenda memberships. 50, Brian. Well, or not Brian, Barry. Wow. Don't know what we've done to deserve that, mate, but thank you to yourself for that incredible generosity. And of course, thank you to Brian as well for earlier on. But also, thank you to you guys. Look at the top corner. We are now 1,191 subscribers away from hitting 250,000. So if you have not subscribed to Anfield Agenda yet, please do. Cara be talking gibberish, said Crazy Old Guy. I've got to say, I view Cara in two different ways. I view Cara in two ways. First of all, I see the legend. I see the Liverpool centre-back that left it all on the pitch, that was a true warrior, that at Istanbul, I'll never understand how he's seen through the rest of that game. Absolute colossus. But the pundit, Jamie Carragher, I like when he's dissecting matches with Gary Neville on Monday Night Football, but this banter, it's just shit banter. Like, they're not good at it. Just leave that to the YouTubers. I don't tune in to want to see banter between him, Keane, Mika Richards or whatever. I tune in because I want to see my pundits educate me on stuff that reminds me why I'm sitting on the sofa and why they're there to share their footballing insight. It's why I'm so frustrated by Roy Keane. I don't see what he brings to the table. I've said this numerous times. I mean, anybody can go on and do the Simon Cowell, be on there and just be negative about everything and undermine everybody. But I want insight. I want to be educated. And sometimes we get that. And that's when I think Cara's at his best and Neville's at his best. But this whole banter stuff is just crap. And why is he wearing an Arsenal shirt? What's that about? Like, whether it's a bet or a dare, it's just stupid. Why are you wearing an Arsenal shirt? It's just, I don't know, weird. Just reading through a few more bits and pieces. So, according to El País Colombia, 2 more clubs are keen on Diaz ahead of the summer window. So we can now add a third club to this list. So they say PSG, but they've also mentioned Milan. Focusing on PSG, the report claims the French side are admirers of the Colombian international and may look to use the instability of Liverpool post-Jurgen Klopp to tempt the Reds and Diaz to part ways. PSG are set for a summer rebuild with Kylian Mbappe now destined for Real Madrid. Previous reports in France have even suggested they could look at Mo Salah to reshape their attack. They go on to say the League One champions' interest in Diaz is backed up by RMC's Fabrice Hawkins, who claims the winger is on a yet-to-be-completed shortlist of options for the League One side. So, again, more stories there. An interesting one that we haven't spoken about yet tonight is a player from Hoffenheim who Liverpool and Xabi Alonso are fans of. This report said Liverpool reportedly lead the chase from Max Bayer. The forward is in fantastic form right now and Xabi Alonso is a fan. Sport Bild claim Liverpool are one of 4 Premier League clubs looking closely at Max Bayer. The Hoffenheim forward is in fantastic form, drawing interest from both within and outside of Germany. Liverpool seem to have the best chance of landing him right now. He's a player who's been linked with the Reds before for quite some time. In fact, that interest has only grown this season. And whilst I'm not going to in any way profess to say I followed this kid's career, he has been a name that's popped up in forums and in transfer stories and stuff like that. But I don't watch Hoffenheim, so I've got no idea if the kid's legit or not. So I'm hoping you guys would have some insight into Max Bayer, and is he the real deal? Should he be somebody we're looking at? What type of forward is he? As in, how does he play? What's this one? So another piece on Liverpool's managerial search. They say Liverpool's search for new sporting director looks set to conclude imminently with Richard Hughes bound for the role, although the hunt for Jurgen Klopp's successor as manager continues. To that end, the Reds appear to have been handed a boost over one candidate, with HITC reporting that Germany head coach Julian Nagelsmann is keen to get back into club management and would be open to taking a job in the Premier League. Intermediaries have apparently made it known that Anfield Chiefs, among other clubs, that the 36-year-old could become available to them if they're interested, with the former Leipzig and Bayern Munich boss reportedly among those who Michael Edwards has in mind as a viable contender for the Liverpool job. No thank you. I'll pass. For me anyway, don't want them. I haven't been able to take to him since he rocked up with Hoffenheim in his little gilet, giving it all the Anfield won't intimidate us crap. Don't like him. Never been able to take to him. Don't want him at Liverpool. I wouldn't even have him in the top 5 at this point personally. But he is a name that will be linked, and I can see him maybe going into Newcastle, something like that. But not for me at Liverpool. But again, I'd be interested to know what you think. Charlie said, do you think Rodrigo is a possibility? I don't know if he's a possibility realistically for Liverpool, Charlie, but I do think, reading between a lot of the Real Madrid and Brazil fans, it does look like he isn't happy with his position and his role at the club. And with Mbappe coming in, is his opportunities going to be limited even more so? Endrick coming down the line as well. So I think for the first time in a while, there may be a chance he leaves Madrid. But what that means in relation to us, I've got no idea. But again, there would only be really a handful of clubs in world football who could maybe afford to buy Rodrigo from Real Madrid. So I guess we'd probably be in that category. In your opinion, Diaz or Rodrigo, said Ryan O'Connell. Short-term Diaz. Because, as you've said, and many of you have said, he's a fighter. He can make stuff happen. Yes, he's not 100%. He's not the complete footballer, but then again, who is? But I can't lie and say I would be upset if we signed Rodrigo, because I think age profile, future value, there's a lot to admire about him. But, Lucho does leave it all out there as well. So I'd probably stick with Lucho. But I do like the idea of Rodrigo. I can't lie. I wouldn't be upset if it happened. But, it would only be if Lucho wanted to move on. Like, if he made it known he wanted to take a move to another club. Then, I'd say fair enough. But I don't want Liverpool looking to push him out the door. That, doesn't feel like the sentiment of what's happening anyway. Please start a blog or a website. We could read articles from your website. Sometimes as a fan I want to join live, but due to time differences and other chores I can't follow your channel completely. I've got to be honest with you, it doesn't appeal to me in the slightest to write a blog or articles. One, because I am horrendous when it comes to grammar. I'm terrible. Like, I'll tell you I'm intelligent on a lot of things or over a lot of things, but not when it comes to grammar. I'm awful. And also, it's a very unrewarding medium. It's very tricky. But what I can say to you is, and I hope this will help you in what you've mentioned, is I am 100% going to have a podcast next season. And I want to do it because I want to do it properly and not rush into it. So I hope that I'll be able to do, let's say, 3 times a week, 15, 20-minute bursts of a podcast. That will be for people like yourself who aren't able to tune in live. Maybe you're in the car and stuff like that. I just need to know what that looks like and how I can make it unique to me. So yeah, it won't be an article, but definitely podcast. Edwards should offer Klopp $1 million a week to stay. Wishful thinking. Well, Klopp said he's not staying. You know, he said that himself. And I totally get where Klopp's coming from. Like, I'm an emotional person that sometimes says stuff in the heat of the moment. And Klopp has thought about it. And as he said, he didn't just wake up and go, I'm leaving. It was playing on his mind for a while. Spoke to his wife and family about it, obviously. And made his decision. And he's not for turning. He's not to change. And I understand and I respect it. You know, for whatever reason, Jurgen feels like he hasn't got the energy to drive the project at Liverpool forward anymore. Understand it. Respect him. So yeah, there isn't a way to get him back, and that's the man's words himself. 15, 20 minutes is short for a podcast. I know. But it's going to be 15, 20 minutes of just me talking solidly about Liverpool. So I think if I'm to do it, that's what I'd have to do. Bursts of 15, 20 minutes. If I had a podcast with 3 or 4 other people, an hour and 20, no problem. But I think for the way that young people and content is being consumed these days, 15, 20 minute podcast bursts sounds about right, in all honesty. So that's where my thought process is with it. I'm going to try it in 15, 20 minute bursts because it'll just be me on the podcast. And again, you don't need to tell me about podcasts. That's where I started my whole content creation journey. So yeah, I've done hundreds of podcasts. It's just when we moved to YouTube, I just didn't have the time. Craig, isn't that what the channel is already? No, the channel is longer form content. Like, I don't really pay attention to a lot of other content creator stuff, but I know a lot of channels, as an example, will do a 30-minute stream or a 40-minute stream or even an hour stream. As you notice here, we usually do somewhere between 75 and 90 minutes for the nighttime stream, sometimes a little bit longer, which is a lot more than a lot of people's attention spans. And if you look at the average watch time for stuff on YouTube, it's usually between 4 and 6 minutes. So although you might have 200,000 views of something, people aren't sitting there and watching it from start to finish. They're coming in for bite-sized portions. And I think if I can do 3 podcasts a week with 3 bullet points in each one, and I go 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, I think that'll be easier for people to digest. You can hire someone to write a summary of your lives. I want to write a book about my life. I do. Not because I think it's something I want to sell or anything, but I think it'll be a cathartic experience. I always plan to say it on a podcast. I always plan to tell my life story on somebody else's podcast. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for that happy hour invitation. But Jack and Stevie have not shown Craig any love in that regard. As much as I love them, I've never had that nod, and I was saving that story for the happy hour podcast. But I don't know, maybe I'll end up on True Geordie's podcast or something. But I tell you what, not to blow my own trumpet, but there is a story in this life, and I hope it would give a lot of people some perspective, and hopefully some people who are in dark times like I was, a bit of positivity. And honestly, I always envision myself sitting there with Stevie and Jack saying it, but it never came around. So what can you do? But then again, I didn't get invited onto any of these type of things. Never. So people often say to me, why don't you do a collab with X, Y, or Z? A lot of the time this is me being honest, why the fuck should I? Nobody gave me a help. Nobody gave me any freebies to get to this point. Nobody brought me on big platforms. Nobody put me on television. Nobody put me on radio. Every single subscriber on this channel was ground out night after night, day after day, stream after stream, off my back, off Connor's back, off Ben's back, with no help from anyone. In fact, the exact opposite. Some doors intentionally slammed in our face. But somebody gave me a piece of advice once in the content creation world, and it was be undeniable, and then it's on your terms. And that's genuinely where we're at. Build a channel, and then if you want to knock on our door, it's on our terms. So I have my community, and I love you all immensely, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But yeah, I have to say that is one disappointment, is that I always hoped to get on the happy hour for a pod and explain my life story, but it is what it is. Maybe I'll have to do it another way in the future. Favourite artist? Ooh. Jay-Z. It's got to be Jay-Z. Yeah, Jay-Z, without a doubt. Any other quick questions? I love these quick fire questions, by the way. On the name, we'll leave that up. It's at nearly 660 votes. So yeah, we'll keep the name. So thank you for your feedback. I just feel if you went down the route of a podcast, it takes out what the channel is with the interaction with the fans. Yeah, no, that's a fair point, Jack. That is a fair point. But I guess we'll only find out if we give it a bash, right? Barry Taylor said 1 Anfield Agenda, 2 Redmen TV, 3 Anfield Rap. Can I give you my rankings? I know I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to rank those 3 for you in my own rankings. Genuinely, number 1, the Anfield Rap. Number 2, Anfield Agenda. Number 3, Redmen TV. And I don't say that to be disparaging or insult anybody, because every single one of us, I feel like, can be very proud of what we've done with those content channels or platforms. But for me, and I've said this before, and I'm going to be honest about it, I think the Anfield Rap are the creme de la creme of football fan content. Full stop. Huge fans of what they do. I had a subscription myself for years and was money very well spent. So I got to be honest about it and say that's my ranking. Favorite male porn star? Do you know, I don't even have a favourite female one, in all honesty, mate. I have a type, but not a favourite. Like, yeah. So maybe I'm going to have to pass on that question. Jay-Z or Prince? Jay-Z, but I love Prince as well. But I got into Prince a bit later in life, to be honest. Oh, 2-1 at Letty. Ooh, turn around. Who scored the goal, if you don't mind me asking? Are you making a food or random topics channel? A Craig Reviews channel in the summer, Morganski. Yeah, we're going to... Or Memphis to Pie, thank you. Yeah, we're going to do a Craig Reviews channel. Okay, Mr. Kayak, you're getting timed out, mate, because that constant same message over and over again is getting a little bit annoying. And somebody got there before me. Well done. Love you too, Craig. Thank you. Honestly, couldn't imagine it without you guys. I look forward to this every day. 8:30. I'm sitting there between 8 and 8:30, just waiting for the stream so I can come on and chat footy with you all and Liverpool. And do you know what? I don't know if I would have gotten through COVID without the channel. I mean, it was dead during COVID because there was no football, obviously. But God, that link to the outside world, to Liverpool fans, was... I needed that so badly in COVID. It was my lifeline to the outside world. Do I like spicy food? No. And I'm not supposed to eat spicy food. I had my gallbladder taken out when I was... God... early 20s? Like 22, 23 maybe? And I was told not to eat spicy food after that. But in all honesty, I've never been a fan of spicy food. I'm a bit of a coward when it comes to spice. Did I like Red Fox as a comedian? Can't say I ever watched much of Red Fox, so I guess I'll have to say no for that reason. Perhaps the podcast should consist of fan questions, reactions on Twitter from food to football opinions. That would solve the interaction problem. Yeah, we could certainly introduce a bit of that. We could certainly do 10 minutes of my opinions on something and 5 minutes of reacting to questions and stuff that have come in. Yeah. And look, I want you guys to be a part of helping shape that podcast. So over the summer, we'll certainly be asking you guys for some feedback on ideas and stuff like that. Because it only works if it's something that you guys have interest in. But the Craig review stuff, I'm going to be honest with you, it's top pub sit downs are pretty good, to be honest, said Barry Taylor. Look, I just think they're I really like the way they talk about football. I think the camaraderie between the lads at the Anfield Raps is really good. I just like it. I like the way they present everything. I think they're and I like that they took that chance. You know, they went legitimate as a company and took the risk and get the reward, and I have nothing but admiration for them. What was the question I was going to get? There was something in this chat I was going back to. I can't remember what it was now. Oh yeah, the reviews channel. Give me a second, I'll get back to that. So Craig, I have to take my gallbladder out. Can you tell me what the experience is like? Also, can you eat outside? What? Can you eat outside when you take it out? I don't know what that last part means. What was the experience like? Grand. The pain of gallstones was the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life, and I often was in tears in pain. But the procedure was fine. I was back in work in 2 days. It was fine. Keyhole surgery wasn't that big of an issue, to be honest. So yeah, the Craig Reviews channel. I don't like making content that I'm not emotional about. So when I do Top of the League, I feel like I'm selling myself a new short and I'm going through the motions because it's not Liverpool. So the reviews channel will be travel, because I love going away with the family. Tech, because I'm a gadget freak as well. Trainers, hoodies, food, of course. All stuff that genuinely provokes emotion in me. As well as things that make me angry, like shrinkflation. The lack of morality in the world. It'll be a mixture of absolutely everything, but all with one common theme of it provokes a response or an emotion in me. How often do you go to Anfield? I haven't been in a couple of years, but I've been somewhere between 30 and 50 times probably, but I haven't been in a couple of seasons. Do I remember the Cosby Show? Of course. I was raised, and that was one of the shows growing up, mate. Cosby Show, Knight Rider, Airwolf, all those type of shows. Was it Two's Company or Three's Company? I can't remember the name of that show. Moonlighting, all those shows when I was growing up. I meant, can you eat out at restaurants or fast food places? Of course. I mean, I've never had any issues since I've had it out with regards to... See, I don't eat spicy food, so I can't tell you what it's like if you eat spicy food, because I don't. But nah, man, all good. It didn't change my life at all, except for not having the pain. Could I get the Rodrigo news? Absolutely. So it's not so much as news. It's more that a lot of Liverpool fans are clamouring and like the idea of Rodrigo. And also there's been some talk that Rodrigo's unhappy at Real Madrid in the position he's playing, with the arrival of Mbappe and stuff coming in as well. So I guess it's kind of fans wanting the Rodrigo move, along with the news that there's been 3 clubs now, AC Milan, PSG and Barcelona, who have all been inquiring after Lucho. And I guess we asked the question, one, is it coming from the agent side? Is it genuine interest in the player? Or is there an angling for a move away? I don't know the answer to that. And then I guess we just looked at it from the point of view of how realistic could Rodrigo be if he was up for sale from Madrid. And I think because of his age profile, probably fairly reasonable to think that we could at least make that move if we wanted to. But I've not seen any nailed on links, like fans. But then again, I say this about just fans, but just fans have ended up driving some transfer stories that actually ended up coming to the point where we signed a player. So never underestimate the influence of fans, but that there's no credible links to say Liverpool want to sign Rodrigo. I've not seen them yet. There have been stories gone back over the last 6 months though, but not in the last few days. Thank you, Craig, and much love. All good, all good. Thank you. A burst appendix was the worst pain I've endured. Well, thankfully, Barry, I've never had to have my appendix out. So I've had my tonsils out and my gallbladder out, and I had my adenoids and grommets done when I was younger as well, I think. Why are the refs blatantly against Liverpool? So the answer to that is threefold. One, maybe they aren't. Two, perhaps some of them have had run-ins with Klopp and haven't let it go. And three, and this is more realistic in my mind, sometimes referees just don't like a club. And again, trying to be careful here, there have been historical incidents where certain referees from certain parts of the world or certain parts of the UK haven't really looked favourably on Liverpool and almost go out of their way to say, I'm not giving that at Anfield, I'm not being swayed by the cop, I'm not blah blah blah. But this year it's been shit. Like the officiating across the league has been unacceptable. And we've been on the end of some absolutely ridiculous decisions. Odegaard handball, that penalty decision against Manchester City, the Lucho goal that was ruled out, the red cards at Spurs, just too many at this point. Somebody said, how's my jaw? Do you know what? It's been really good. Yeah. Often go months without any pain and then it might flare up. But yeah, it's been good, thank you. I still will have to have the operation on it at some point, but for now, thankfully, all good. Oh, 2-0 to Dortmund. Oh, hello. I thought it was 2-0 to Dortmund a while ago, no? Was that ruled out or something then? It'll be interesting to see if anything changes post-Klopp. It will. It will. You will see far less players in their mid-30s at Liverpool, or even you'll see no contract renewals really after the age of 32, 33 past Van Dijk. I would say he'll probably be the last one. Is anyone watching the Inter game? Extra time, who's everybody got? Ooh, there you go. It was disallowed, right. Cool. So look, my friends, I, like you, I'm going to go watch the extra time of the Inter Atleti game. Tomorrow we'll be starting from 7 o'clock, because don't forget there is a game coming up. Liverpool taking on Sparta Prague. Who knows what team we're going to see. So before we finish up tonight, again a reminder, if you haven't already downloaded SofaScore, please do. There's a link at the top of the chat, and of course in the bottom corner of the screen there's a QR code. Every single one of you that download SofaScore helps us out financially. It's a free app, and it's an app that you won't regret downloading. Best and fastest goal updates in the business as far as I'm concerned. More stats and information than any other app I've used, and honestly can't speak highly enough of it. Also, don't forget Boston. Tickets are moving. 1 week to go. If you want to come see us, link in the description or search on Ticketmaster. And until then, I look forward to tomorrow, another match day, and I live for these match days, even if it will be the kids. So see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock where we'll take you through the game. Have a great night. Thank you for joining me, and much love to you all. As always, thank you. Bye-bye.